with the wings of a bat and the face of a horse and the devil's tail. This pre-revolutionary cryptid has been haunting the New Jersey Pine Barrens for over 290 years. This is the lore and legends of the Jersey Devil. Roll intro. You will not believe she cheated on her husband with the devil, since he died on that October full moon. Spotted the Jersey Devil outside of their window, cried like a record scratch. That's kind of like the Drake Kendrick devil child from Benjamin Franklin's Enemy. This bad boy's got some lore. So like I stated in the intro, this cryptid has been around for quite a while actually. I think it's gonna be the oldest cryptid I've covered so far, because the original sightings date back to 1735. A solid, 41 years before America was even a country. So at this point, it was just the British colonies. And that's where the cryptid kind of gets its role, gets itself started off. That sentence didn't make a lot of sense, but I said it. So we're just gonna dive right into this initial account per se and all the details about the origins of this cryptid, because he actually has a pretty detailed origin story compared to a lot of other cryptids. Like this bad boy's got some lore, some freaking lore, let me tell you. So the story goes, there was a mother who was allegedly pregnant with her 13th child, a child that she didn't want. So she cursed the child. There's a couple different accounts of what exactly she did. Some say she just cursed the child. Some people say that she said, "I hope I give birth to a devil." And other accounts of this story, allegedly the child's father was the devil itself and she boned the devil. So anyways, when she gives birth to her 13th child, unlucky number 13, you know, we gotta, the unlucky number 13 lore apparently goes back hundreds of years, because like I said, this is nearly 300 years ago and they're already like 13's an unlucky number. I'm gonna have to deep dive sometime, just the number 13 and when it started being the unlucky number, because I guess I need to know that. But the child comes out and it is said to have been horse-faced with a long neck and horns, the wings of a bat, and a forked tail, and it had 2 hoofed bottom legs. Now there's different accounts of what happens once this demon child is birthed. Some of the accounts say it just flew around the room and then out the chimney. Other accounts say that it attacked everyone in the room, both the family and the midwives and a priest that was there for the birth. Apparently it attacked all those people and flew out. And then there was even another account that I found which said the demon kills the midwives and all of the friends of the family, but it leaves the family itself unharmed and then flies out of the chimney. So which one of these is the original? I'm not 100% sure. I believe the original is just, it comes out a demon, it attacks the people in the room, and then it flies out this chimney. And then when it flies out the chimney, apparently it was a dark, stormy night, and it flies out into the Pine Barrens of New Jersey. And to this day, it still haunts the New Jersey Pine Barrens. I tried to get a little spooky there. I don't know how spooky I am, but I tried. There's also a couple other random things about the Jersey Devil which have a lot less merit to the legend. One being that it was just a straight up dragon, because it was described to be very similar to a dragon by early witnesses. So some people think that this lady just birthed out a baby dragon. That's a take. I'm not sure that I would go with that one, but that's a take. There were other accounts saying that the Jersey Devil glowed everywhere it went. It was just always glowing. Then there was other accounts that it could breathe fire and then poison water with its breath, which admittedly are very dragon-like characteristics. So there is a lot of merit into saying that this lady just straight up birthed a dragon, but I mean, that doesn't make any sense. People don't birth dragons. I don't believe that for a second, but I mean, believing that a lady birthed the Jersey Devil just because she was mad about having to birth 13 kids, I don't know if I necessarily believe that either. Right off the bat, this quote-unquote origin story for the Jersey Devil, it doesn't really seem believable or to make sense unless you believe in the literal devil and you believe that the literal devil impregnated this poor woman for her 13th birth, which also means that she cheated on her husband with the devil, so that's a whole other thing. The devil is probably like, hey baby, your man stinks. Mostly because we haven't invented showers yet. I'm gonna go out to the barn. But why this story is so well promulgated as the true origins of the Jersey Devil is because there is a real life family that this is linked to and is directly involved with the start of this story. This isn't just some like tall tale. There's a well-documented family that this is actually about. And one of the things about this family is, yes, they did have 12 children. And you might be wondering what it's all about. This is gonna get it kind of into the weeds kind of fast, but just stick with me because I actually think it's really interesting and kind of funny how this all gets going. So the family that this is kind of about is the Leeds family. Now, before 1909, the Jersey Devil was actually more so known as the Leeds Devil, and Leeds is an area in New Jersey, okay, that's right near the Pine Barrens. There's even a town called Leeds Point. I believe it's a town. I don't know if it's a town or a city or what the exact thing is. I should look that up. So Leeds Point is a town. Its current population is in the couple hundreds. Not a lot of people living there. So there's several different ways that this story comes out of the Leeds family, and I need to talk about three main important people in the Leeds family. First, you have Daniel Leeds. He's the primary father of this Leeds family pyramid, and then he has two important sons. One is Titan Leeds and the other is Japhet. I think it's Japhet or Japhet, I don't know which one. Japhet Leeds are his two primary sons in this story. So Daniel Leeds is a prominent pro-British man who gets a hold of one of the first printing presses in the colonies, and he starts printing an almanac. And this almanac becomes pretty darn popular in the area, in the colonies. And while he starts off a Quaker in the religious sense, not just the having farmland sense, while he starts off a Quaker, he puts a lot of things in his almanacs containing like astrology and some things that are kind of more occultist than the Quakers liked. So they start calling him like blasphemous and a pagan and all this stuff. And they start literally calling him a demon or a devil. And he ends up leaving like the Quakers and the church as a whole. They were referring to him, the local Quakers were referring to him, Daniel Leeds, as the Leeds Devil back in like the 1600s into the early 1700s. But he continues doing his almanac, okay? And it's a mix of him being super pro the British and the monarchy and his Christian mysticism, Christian occultism in his almanacs that kind of culminate in him being kind of cast out by the Quaker community at large and referred to as the Leeds Devil. They told him that he was evil and all these other things. And it kind of became this huge beef. He started like printing anti-Quaker tracts and the Quakers were like anti-him, and it becomes this like big things. And then the Quaker community even released this little tract called Satan's Harbinger Encountered, where they just say that Daniel Leeds is just straight up working for the devil and he is satanic. So the whole like Leeds Devil thing, which turns into the Jersey Devil, kind of starts with Daniel, but then it gets kicked up an entire another notch when his son Titan Leeds comes to take over the almanac and starts printing the almanac instead of his father. And right around the time that he takes it over, he makes a couple changes to the almanac, including as the like primary symbol of their almanac, he takes their family crest, which is a wyvern, which I can throw up some pictures of what wyverns generally look like, but more or less they are pretty much dragons. They're very similar to dragons. They're very dragon-like. So you can kind of see where this is all forming together. Titan Leeds takes over the almanac of his father, and his father is being called a devil and working for the devil, and just pure evil incarnate. And then his son takes over, and his son makes the symbol of the almanac more or less something that kind of looks like the Jersey Devil. And you can see how we're developing here, how we're getting closer to this Jersey Devil origin story. And you will not believe the person who codifies the Jersey Devil mythos into the story I've already kind of attested to at the beginning of the video. Because it's at this point where their almanac gets its first major competitor in the colonies, when Benjamin Franklin comes in and starts competing against them with his Poor Richard's Almanac, which is one of the things that would lead Benjamin Franklin to become immensely popular in the colonies. This is when he's still incredibly young, because like I said, at this point we're around 1730s, okay? So Benjamin Franklin's still incredibly young, and he starts putting out a different almanac, which is directly competing with the Leeds Almanac. So they're kind of like the two major almanacs of the colonies at this point. And a young Benjamin Franklin is petty as hell. Like, if I had to describe the Benjamin Franklin and the Leeds beef, it's very much like the Drake Kendrick beef that's going on today. When I was telling my girlfriend about this, she's like, that's kind of like the Drake Kendrick beef. So just picture that. So basically the two of them start writing more or less diss tracks against each other, but just in their almanacs. And what really kicks this off is in 1733, Benjamin Franklin jokingly uses astrology in his almanac to predict Titan Leeds' death in October of that year on the full moon. He's straight up just like, yeah, my competitor's gonna die in October on the full moon this year. Like, haha. And Franklin basically did this because he, one, thought it would be funny, and two, he thought the joke at his competitor's expense would boost the sales of his almanac, because people would hear about it by word of mouth, and it would just become this whole thing, which it did. Don't get me wrong, it really did. So it actually did work out for him. And Titan Leeds was not thrilled with this, and he started putting out things calling Benjamin Franklin a fool and a liar, and just totally trying to dunk on Benjamin Franklin as an illegitimate almanac writer. It doesn't really work, and Benjamin Franklin's almanac just becomes more popular. So then in the next year's almanac, Benjamin Franklin refers to Titan Leeds again and says he's impressed that Titan Leeds' ghost is still able to write almanacs since he died on that October full moon the year prior. So he just doubles down and he's like, no, not only did I say you were gonna die, you actually died, and now my competition is just a ghost. My competition is more or less dead to me. And it's savage. So that's in 1734. Benjamin Franklin would go on to keep this joke up even after Titan Leeds actually dies. So Titan Leeds died in 1738, and apparently Benjamin Franklin would still slip in jokes about Titan Leeds being a ghost even after his death. So like, even after this guy died, Benjamin Franklin continued to dunk on this guy, which is just wild. But it is strongly believed that, like I said, the first thing saying he's gonna die, 1733, the second thing saying, oh, now he's a ghost, was in 1734, and it's strongly believed that Benjamin Franklin himself is the one who writes the whole mythos around the Jersey Devil, then known as the Leeds Devil, and releases it in 1735. But he wasn't writing about Titan Leeds. That's when he was writing about Titan's brother, one of the other sons of David, Japhet Leeds. Japhet Leeds, it's well known that his wife, Deborah Leeds, had 12 children. The two of them had 12 children, and we even have like legal proof of this because he named all 12 of his children in his will he wrote, and they lived in Leeds Point during the 1730s, so they would have been well known in the area from this well-known family, and that's where this whole story takes its full development and rises to what it becomes. In all of his dunkings on the Leeds family, Benjamin Franklin writes out a little thing about Titan's brother and his family and how they have 12 kids, but they had this secret 13th kid who was a devil and a demon and attacked the family, and now it haunts the land that's named after the family. This Leeds Point around the area. So pretty confidently, we can say that the original Leeds Devil, which kind of morphs into the Jersey Devil, this is kind of that finite origin story and where it come from, where all the details come from. More than likely, it was all because Benjamin Franklin had some petty almanac beef, and he just wrote a banger, an absolute banger of a fan fiction. But that's the gist of the Benjamin Franklin beef. So let's move on to some of the other later accounts and testimonies of the Jersey Devil. As we get into it, I'm totally not recording this on a different day in the exact same outfit, and you totally can't tell that I didn't film this all in one take. There are spatterings of references about the Jersey Devil throughout the 1800s. Not a ton, but there are some. It said that in 1859, the Atlantic Monthly published an article detailing Leeds Devil folktales, popular among the people of Pine Barrens. It's also noted there that the people of Pine Barrens were called the Pine Rats because I guess most of the people living in the Pine Barrens were poor people or destitute or vagabonds. So people called them rats. So that's not very nice, but that's a thing that happened. Another big account was in 1887. There's another newspaper article that describes sighting of a winged creature, referring to it as the Devil of Leeds. And it was allegedly spotted in and near the Pine Barrens. And the way the article is written, it comes across as like this was just a well-known thing that happens, which at the time it was known as Burlington County, New Jersey. Hi, I'm doing my thing. And that news article, a colonel basically said that it's not a bird nor an animal, but it's a Leeds Devil, that it had been in Burlington County for over 100 years, which going by off the dates, that would be accurate. But he says he remembers seeing it roaming around the woods for over 50 years. And throughout those 50 years, there was tons of people he knew who shot at it and had dogs chase it, and nobody was ever able to kill it or capture it. And he also referred to it as the bugaboo to frighten children when I was a boy. It was also reported in newspapers in both 1840 and 1841 that the Jersey Devil was killing livestock in the area, and it's reported that there was lots of tracks and lots of screams from these alleged attacks and lots of dead livestock. There's also a legend where Commodore Stephen Decatur came to inspect the Hanover Mill Works to inspect cannonballs being made, and they saw the Jersey Devil and fired cannonballs at it but weren't able to hit it. Or some of the accounts said that they did hit the Jersey Devil but the cannonballs did nothing. So there's that. There's also an alleged account where Joseph Bonaparte, who is the brother of Napoleon Bonaparte, saw the Jersey Devil while hunting in New Jersey in 1820. Apparently he owned land in Bordentown, New Jersey, which was known to be a part of the Pine Barrens area. There's a whole bunch of different takes on his encounter with the Jersey Devil. The fact that there's a lot of them kind of give credence to the story a little bit, but I won't bore you with all the details. But there's some accounts that say he was shocked to find it. Another accounts say that he wasn't surprised at all to find it while hunting because he already believed in it. So I don't know what of that is true, but allegedly Joseph Bonaparte, and by proxy maybe even Napoleon Bonaparte himself, believed in the Jersey Devil in the 1820s. But while the origin of the Jersey Devil started in 1735, it wouldn't be for another 174 years where it would truly cement itself as one of America's first and prominent popular cryptids, because a whole bunch of sightings happened in 1909, spanning across about a week's time. But in New Jersey, between January 16th and 23rd in 1909, there was hundreds. Hello, Indy. Ow. Don't bite me. You're just a glutton for attention and fights. But during January 16th to January 23rd in 1909, there are hundreds of accounts of sightings of the Jersey Devil. even hundreds just published in newspapers alone. And I'm gonna highlight some of the ones that I could find that happened during this week span, but there's tons of them, and there's a pretty large pile of evidence. And this is where it really truly transitions from the Leeds Devil to the Jersey Devil and comes full into fruition. One of the accounts was in Trenton, New Jersey. A city councilman, E.P. Whedon, was woken up by a beating on his door and wings flapping outside his home, and he found bipedal footprints both in the snow on his roof and around in his yard. And others in his neighborhood the same night said that they heard weird screeching sounds and found hoofed footprints in the snow both in their yards and on their roof as well. And there was multiple people in his neighborhood who testified to a giant creature flying around in the air during the night. And in the same evening in nearby Bristol, Pennsylvania, there was a police officer named James Sackville who allegedly shot at the Jersey Devil, but failed to kill it. Another account was that Postmaster E.W. Minster saw a crane-like creature with huge wings and the head of a ram that glowed. According to him, the entire head glowed, and it was the head of a ram on a bird-like crane type body. So that's just really weird. There was a liquor store owner named John McOwen, and he said an eagle-like creature with a weird head was running around and cried like a record scratch and a factory whistle combined, which that is a sound that I absolutely positively never want to hear. And from what I understand, all those sightings were just Monday. Just Monday. And then we get to Tuesday the 19th. At 2:30 in the morning, resident Nelson Evans and his wife spotted the Jersey Devil outside of their window. They claimed in their description that the beast was 3.5 feet tall and had a strange head that started looking like a collie dog, but had a face similar to that of a horse. Its neck was abnormally long, and its wings were 2 feet in length. It also was said to walk on back hooves, or hooves, and held its 2 front paws up like this while walking. So I think the Jersey Devil might have been a little autistic, because I do that. And while they were able to just scare away this creature that they said they saw outside their window, they were absolutely terrified and went to the police about this. And they were so startled that they got 2 hunters from nearby Gloucester? It's gotta be Gloucester. There's no way it's Gloucester. Anyways, they got 2 hunters from Gloucester to come and follow the tracks of the animal, which allegedly went for 20 miles. And they said that the tracks jumped over fences, squeezed under small gaps about 8 inches in size, that the tracks matched the tracks that were in the other 2 towns from the days prior. And it's really weird that the fact that this thing allegedly has wings and allegedly can fly pretty well, but at some point just decides to like run for 20 miles in like a single direction. It gets chased after by experienced hunters and they are not able to find it or catch it, and they eventually just lose trace of the tracks, probably when it decided to finally fly. And between this account and several other sightings that happened throughout Tuesday, by Wednesday this whole region of New Jersey was in an absolute ruckus, and a whole bunch of people shut down their local businesses and they gather up, decide to just form hunting posses to try to hunt down this cryptid and get rid of the Jersey Devil once and for all. And it's even said that some of these posses saw the creature flying around Morristown, New Jersey, but they weren't able to shoot it out of the sky and they lost track of it. Then there's also testimony of an event that happens on Thursday where a lady in Camden, New Jersey spotted the stereotypical Jersey Devil description of a creature trying to eat her dog. While she says that she chases away the Jersey Devil and it doesn't kill her dog, that it literally had just ate part of her dog's face. And this would shake things up even more because, you know, there have been reports way back in the past of the Leeds Devil, you know, which turns into the Jersey Devil attacking livestock. You know, during this week frenzy, so far it hadn't hurt anything, but they're like, okay, now it's eating things. It's eating their faces while they're still alive. That's a big deal. But when it came to the final day of the sightings on Friday the 22nd, that's when they saw a Pepsi. Maybe the Jersey Devil was the Pepsis we drank along the way. Hit like and subscribe if you want me to stop making Pepsi jokes. There's also some random rumors that the Jersey Devil attacked a trolley car, which is a really weird one, but apparently attacked a trolley car while a bunch of people were in it and then just took off. So that's a move. And it's also stated that during that weekend that the Philadelphia Zoo posted a $10,000 bounty for the creature if anybody could catch it or kill it. Nobody did catch or kill it. The mystery still remains to this day of what exactly was running around during this weekend time. But just as fast as this Jersey Devil commotion comes in, it comes right back out, because by the end of January 23rd, the sightings just kind of cease to happen, and the Jersey Devil just more or less goes quiet after this point for several years. But there is a couple spatterings of sightings between 1909 and now that I'm going to cover real quickly before we get into what the explanations are for the Jersey Devil, what people say what all those sightings were in the 1900s and in the 1800s, to try to explain away the fact that it isn't just this devil child from Benjamin Franklin's enemy. In Greenwich Township in December 1925, a local farmer shot an unidentified animal who he said looked like the Jersey Devil as it was trying to kill his chickens, and he did take a photograph of it and showed it to more than 100 people who couldn't identify it as any other animal and claimed that it must have been the Jersey Devil. A little more than a decade later, on July 27th, 1937, there was a strange animal with red eyes seen by the residents in Downingtown, Pennsylvania. They said that it looked like the Jersey Devil, and it was even printed in the Pennsylvania Bulletin on July 28th of 1937 that it was a Jersey Devil sighting. In 1951, a group of boys in Gibbstown, New Jersey, claimed to have seen the monster that matched the Jersey's Devil exact description, and those boys would later claim that they had found the Jersey Devil's corpse. In 1960, there was a whole bunch more sightings of the tracks that looked the exact same as the ones from 1909 near Mays Landing. They also heard the same weird noises that were heard in 1909. So the people in that area claimed that it was the Jersey Devil coming back to haunt them specifically. And it'd be during this time again in 1960 that because of that, another $10,000 bounty would be offered by merchants in Camden, New Jersey for the capture of the Jersey Devil alive, and said that they would front the cost to build an entire zoo just for the Jersey Devil so that they could prove it was actually real to the rest of the world. And that's kind of it for major sightings of the Jersey Devil. I mean, in modern times, you have the Jersey Devil coaster at Six Flags, so you can go see that for yourself. There's the Jersey Devil NHL team, the hockey team. And a little fun fact is that there's a restaurant called Lucille's Country Cooking that has a giant wooden statue of the Jersey Devil outside of it. And Anthony Bourdain ate there. And while there during an interview, he said that he was not a believer, and he described the Jersey Devil as a My Little Pony with a forked tail. Go off. But now let's dive into the explanations and a little bit about the Pine Barrens as well, this area where the Jersey Devil not only allegedly comes from, but still haunts to this day. For most of its existence, the Pine Barrens have been considered a relatively inhospitable land. Back in the day, there was lots of gangs of highwaymen who would rob you that patrolled the area. There was one even named group called the Pine Robbers, who were known to rob and attack travelers who went through the area. And during the 18th and 19th century, pretty much anybody who lived in the Pine Barrens were deemed outcasts of society. It was usually either really poor farmers, fugitives, Native Americans, poachers, moonshiners, runaway slaves, and deserting soldiers who would live amongst the Pine Barrens. And there was even 2 eugenics studies that were done on people from the Pine Barrens. And these 2 studies were published in the very early 1900s when eugenics was actually pretty popular, unfortunately. These alleged results from the eugenics depicted Pineys, people from the Pine Barrens, as congenital idiots and criminals. And most of the research was performed on one family, the Kallikak family, and the study was done by Henry H. Goddard. And all of his work is considered to be biased, inaccurate, unscientific, and falsified. So it's just a bunch of bogus just to shit on the people from this area who were more or less just people who were down on their luck or criminals. But not only did the Pine Barrens have this kind of vibe from the kind of people who would often take refuge there, there's also a whole bunch of other legends of creepy, scary, or horrific things that lived in the Pine Barrens besides the Jersey Devil, actually. It is said that many ghosts haunt the pine forest, including the ghost of Pirate Captain Kidd, who is alleged to have buried his treasure somewhere within the Pine Barrens, though nobody's ever found it. And there's even some accounts where people will see the Jersey Devil and Pirate Captain Kidd walking together through the forest, like, you know, like owner and pet or something. There's also the tale of the ghost of the Black Doctor, who was a benevolent spirit of an African American doctor who, after being forbidden to practice medicine due to his race, entered the Pine Barrens and practiced medicine illegally and kind of became more or less kind of a witch doctor type of situation. But he's actually pretty nice and allegedly will just magically show up and help and heal injured people who are lost in the Pine Barrens and then just disappear. There's also the ghost of the Black Dog, who is said to be harmless and really nice. So, what sweetie pie. There's also the ghost of the golden-haired girl, who is allegedly a spirit that just stares out from the pine woods into the sea. And she does this because she is mourning the loss of her lover who died at sea. And there's also the white stag, who's a ghost deer who allegedly rescues people in the Pine Barrens from danger and protects them from the Jersey Devil. There's also this tale of the blue hole, which is allegedly this really weird blue body of water that's like perfectly round and is mystical. I don't know what the deal with that is, but I just saw a mention of that and I was like, oh, I gotta mention the blue hole. You can't leave out the blue hole. But that's some of the other creepy things about the Pine Barren. But back to the Jersey Devil. What the heck was it? So Jeff Bruner of the Humane Society of New Jersey thinks that it's that every time people think they see the Jersey Devil, it's a lost sandhill crane, which we've already brought up sandhill cranes in other cryptid videos, because every time there's a weird, giant, strange cryptid that doesn't make any sense, people often try to just explain it away as, oh, it's a sandhill crane because giant, large winged bird, and people aren't used to seeing birds that big, so they see a bird that's huge and they're like, it's a cryptid. But from the descriptions of the Jersey Devil and what a sandhill crane is, they are relatively similar in size, and they do both have weird, loud screeching calls. So that's where a lot of the point towards sandhill cranes goes. Just imagine sandhill crane apparently will occasionally get lost and end up there in the Pine Barrens. People just think that that's what it is. It's just sandhill cranes. But I kind of find that one hard to buy. There are other false accounts of the people thinking they saw the Jersey Devil, where several times it turned out to be outdoorsman and author Tom Brown Jr. He would cover himself in mud and leaves and really weird objects so he could study the nature and the ecosystem and the animals without being noticed by them, and so mosquitoes would leave him alone. So according to some people, more modern sightings of the Jersey Devil was just a guy covered in mud. Obviously, he wasn't around during the 1909 sightings or anything before that, so that is not a valid explanation for all of these Jersey Devil sightings. Just some of the most modern ones. But there is one somewhat credible explanation for the 1909 Jersey Devil sightings, and it all boils down to our boy Norman Jeffries. Norman Jeffries was a publicist for the Philadelphia's Arch Street Museum. He was an iconic hoaxer of the time, and it was during 1909 that the museum was at risk of closure due to really low attendance, and that's when he came up with the genius idea. He would fake sightings of the Jersey Devil, rile up a bunch of people in a local panic. They would think they saw the Jersey Devil just because they're afraid, because they're seeing other things, and then this is where it gets crazy. Allegedly, him, along with his friend Jacob Hope, buy a kangaroo from a traveling circus. They attach claws and bat wings to it and paint stripes on it, and then they displayed it saying it was the Jersey Devil at the museum, and you could go pay to see the Jersey Devil in person at this museum, and it was basically a big stunt to try to save the museum, which that is all well and good, but it doesn't really explain the sightings in all of those towns. Like I said, there was more than 100 eyewitness accounts reported to police from separate individuals, so unless all 100 people were in on it, or it was just a case of mass hysteria due to him instigating mass hysteria upon the region of people in New Jersey, it really doesn't explain all those sightings, because like I said, he could have maybe faked a couple of the sightings, and yes, he could have had this thing at the museum, but it stayed at the museum, and he, from what we know, didn't go around and be the Jersey Devil in all of these cities over the course of that week. Maybe he did. We don't know, but that is a possibility. But yeah, it's kind of up to you what you want to believe. Is the Jersey Devil real? Is it the demon child of Benjamin Franklin's arch nemesis? Is it actually a leftover remnant of the dragon species? Or is it just a kangaroo in a sick cosplay? Quite frankly, I don't know. But thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment below what cryptids you would like me to talk about next. And I will see you next time. Bye. You're an absolute goober. Stop being a bud. That's how the intro goes. So anyways, what's up? I'm gonna go out to the barn.